I don't know about you, but that looked like money.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a minute since I've recorded anything. It's been a pretty busy week. We spent some time at the theme parks, the Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. Frequent Fear passes went on sale, so I had to deal with that. Yeah, my family and I we're all about the theme parks, especially during the fall and the winter. So a lot of that stuff dropped last week. Um, Won a pretty big card last week too, but that won't be here for a couple weeks. But can't wait to share that one with you. I'm really excited about that. This video is kind of a response video for people who have messaged me very kindly and expressed that they're just starting to get into vintage football. And I thought it'd be kind of nice to throw a quick video out there as to maybe how you can get started into vintage football if you don't really have a really clear idea as to where to start. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to share how I started and how that evolved, and then throw some options out there for how you might want to start. If you're just starting this journey, it can be confusing, it can feel overwhelming, but rest assured, it's manageable, and it's fun, and there's a lot of avenues that you can take to make it enjoyable for you. So let's dive into it, and yeah, we'll start with how I started. This was a few years ago, and I've mentioned this on my channel before, that the first vintage football card I ever added to my collection was actually a trade. I traded some modern baseball. In fact, it was a Francisco Lindor and a Manny Machado. They were Bowman Chrome prospect autographs. Remember this like it was yesterday. And I traded those for my 1971 Topps Terry Bradshaw rookie card, which I'll show a little later. That was my first um, step into it, dipping the toes into the vintage football water. And the reason it happened is I knew vintage football was inexpensive, but I didn't really understand how inexpensive it was until I saw that card and the price tag on it. And I'm thinking, man, I can flip these two for that straight up. It was a no-brainer for me, honestly. And yeah, that really kick-started my journey into this. And it's been fun. It's been interesting. I've made mistakes. You'll probably make mistakes doing this, but you learn from them and you move on. That's kind of like with everything in life. You learn from your mistakes and move on, build off of it. But from there, I didn't really know where to go, in terms of the collection, how I wanted to do it. But a few days later, I'm like, I have a Hall of Fame quarterback. How many vintage Hall of Fame quarterbacks are there? And what are their cards? Can I afford them? I knew the Namath was expensive. I knew that one, but I didn't know, the prices on a lot of the others. And that was the first quote unquote set that I tried to put together, was to get all of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks pre 1980 rookie cards. And that's kind of how I started. From there, it really took on a life of its own, because now I went from that to trying to get every Hall of Fame rookie card of every player, and it's a journey. It's not easy to do, but it's fun, and I've learned a lot about the game. I've learned a lot about players of the game, and it's all been good. It's a monster for sure. But there are other ways to tackle it, and I'm going to point you to some of those right now, and then we'll look at some cards. We'll look at the QBs that I bought that got me started, and a few others, I think. And then yeah, hopefully this helps you out. But here are another couple of ideas. Let me minimize myself. There we go. One thing I recommend is looking at all-time lists, and this is one of them. This is the NFL 100 website. Now that they put their 100th anniversary team together in 2019, and the website is still up. And what's really cool about this is that you can click through each position and look at the team members for the NFL 100. And to me, this is a really good place to start. I kind of wish I would have started with this and not just jumping into getting every Hall of Famer that ever existed. This is a tremendous list to start with. A lot of very, very undervalued players. Here's one right here. Um, but yeah, all the positions, tackles, guards, centers. It's, again, I wish I would have started here. And a really inexpensive place to start isn't the quarterbacks, it's the wide receivers. I mean, all these guys, except for the Allworth, all these guys are really affordable. Oh, the Hudson's kind of expensive too. But yeah, I mean, Paul Warfield's probably the most underrated Hall of Famer that there is, in my opinion. Definitely at the wide receiver position. But yeah, this is a really cool place to start. It's at the NFL.com/100, and it's just got everything. It's amazing, amazing place to start. Another place to look is, and this is where I went to start my quarterback journey, was the PSA set registry for Hall of Fame rookie cards. This has a list of all the players. This doesn't have the coaches, so there's no Paul Brown, there's no Tom Landry, no George Halas, but it's got every football Hall of Famer and their PSA set registry card listed. And I simply exported this out into an Excel worksheet, and I keep track of it that way as I go. This is, again, it's 300 plus cards, but you could always sort it out, by position as well. But this is where I started when I started the Hall of Fame quarterback set, air quotes, and it was really helpful. It showed me, they assign a weight to the card, a weighted grade, and I learned a lot very quickly that some of these cards are really tough. Like this, we all know about the Bronco Nagurski, being a five-figure card, but the Sid Luckman is weighted a 10 and is not a five-figure card. So you learn a lot along the way, and you learn what's hard to get, what isn't. And that's the other thing, depending on how you want to go about this, there's a budget that everybody has, right? We all work in different budgets. I can assume that most of us have a limited amount of funds that we can spend on cards every month. And being smart with that is another good way to attack vintage football. And some of the greatest deals that you'll find are in the 1970s. I think the most expensive card in the 70s for a Hall of Famer is probably Walter Payton's, and that card is not hard to find. None of the cards are hard to find. Some of them are condition sensitive, like the Staubach, the Bradshaw, the Joe Green, but most of the cards are readily available and can be had relatively inexpensive depending on the grade that you want. So the 70s is a great place to start. If you're more focused on position, wide receivers are very undervalued. The most expensive one you're going to probably try to find is the Don Hutson and the Lance Allworth are two high ticket items. If you like running backs, outside of Jim Brown and to a lesser extent Gale Sayers, we're talking post-war. Pre-war is a different story. But post-war cards, the Brown, the Sayers, the Peyton, those are the big three in terms of price. And if you're going by the NFL 100 list, as I pull it back up, Earl Campbell you can get for, under $50. Dutch Clark's expensive. He's a 35 shekel. Lenny Moore, criminally undervalued. I say that a lot. Same with Motley. Steve Van Buren is another one, 48 Leaf or Bowman. Barry Sanders, cheap, 89 score, I think is the big one. But yeah, look at all these names, and most of them can be had pretty cheap, pretty cheap. I was talking about wide receivers earlier. Again, Lance Allworth is the big one. Elroy Hirsch is the 1950 Bowman. Great set, one of the greatest sets ever made. He can be had really cheap. Don Hudson, he doesn't have a lot. He's got his rookie card is technically a 55 Topps All-American. It's readily available, not hard to get. It'll cost you, 300-ish bucks for a mid to high grade copy. He has a 1935 Wheaties panel, but those are pretty tough to find and are super expensive. But those are really the only two big items that he has. The rest of these guys, Raymond Berry, you can get for $100. Largen's cheap, what's that? He's at 77 Topps, I think, 78 Topps. Really cheap. Jerry Rice, he'll cost you some bucks, but again, not a card that's hard to find. This guy, I can't believe how cheap Paul Warfield's rookie card is. It's a 66 Philadelphia. Again, I said it earlier. To me, he's probably the most underrated wide receiver in the Hall of Fame and one of the most underrated Hall of Famers in terms of card values in the hobby. He's a great place to start. But yeah, value can be had like I said, the 70s is full of the great value, and mid 60s and later also really good values. We look at the quarterbacks. Sammy Baugh, his cards aren't cheap, but considering his legacy and what he meant to the game, I feel that there's some room for growth there if that's your thing. It's your money. Do what you want. I'm not promoting investment. This is strictly a hobby for me. But Sammy Baugh stuff, he doesn't have a lot, and what he does have is surprisingly cheap, in my opinion. Autogram's another one, doesn't have a whole lot. 50 Bowman would be his rookie card. He does have a 46 Sears, which if you find it, congratulations. And then you've got, Unitas, iconic. His 57 Topps, again, easy to find the card, not easy to find it without some condition issues. Staubach's one of those cards of the 70s you can get really cheap. There's a lot of avenues you can go. And then you have the two great QBs of the 80s with Elway and my guy Marino here. And then you have the coaches. You could start a collection by going after, a Paul Brown, a Hallis, and a Landry. They've got cards in the 50s that are relatively affordable. The Landry can get pricey. And then the Brown and the Hallis are part of the 52 Bowman set, which, you find those in good condition, they'll cost you a few bucks. Shula's got a kind of a oddball item as a card. Chuck Noll has one as well if you can find it. They're tough to find. Lombardi's got, I think there's a 55 or 56 Giants coaches card that's out there that has him on it, which is considered really his first item. But yeah, there's so many avenues you can go by. Running backs, again, we touched on that. Uh, if you like defense, Concrete Charlie's Leaf is going to cost you, a couple $1,000s for a decent copy, more than likely, or at least $1,500. But most of these guys, easy to find and not too expensive. The Buckus is probably the next most expensive card there. You go to the defensive ends again. Bill Hewitt. I don't know if he has anything. Maybe a matchbook. Gino Marchetti is a great one. Doug Atkins is a great one too. I say this, it's obvious because they're part of the 100th anniversary team, right? But yeah, this is a great place to start, as is the set registry. Again, everybody's got their own flavor of what they want to do. I'm just offering up some I don't want to say it's advice, but maybe just some ideas as to, if you're on the fence as to which way to go. This NFL 100 rosters, to me, it's a good place to at least look and get some ideas of your own, I think. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful for any of you that are, on the fence about it. Again, many more different ways you could go besides these two avenues I showed, and it can seem overwhelming, kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant. But take your time with it. Be patient. It's doable. Be smart about it. That sort of thing. Educate yourself. That's the biggest thing. There are variants of some of these cards. There are errors of some of these cards. There are, things like that you need to educate yourself on. Some of these cards are really easy to get, so don't get the FOMO, the fear of missing out, especially when it comes to cards from the 70s and mid to late 60s. Most of those you can get every day. That's not including the regional issues and things like that. Some of those are very tough to find, but your Topps and your Bowman and your Fleer, you can pretty much find those every day of the week. With all that being said, I'm hoping this was somewhat helpful for you. Again, if you've got questions, feel free to send me a message either via the comments or via Instagram. My Instagram handle is right there. And with that being said, I'll show some of the cards that got me started on this awesome journey that I'm on. And yeah, let's have a look at some. So yeah, here's some examples of the cards that got me going into this. This 72 Staubach was one of my early purchases. This is a tough card to find centered. Mine has a little bit of tilt to it. Not the biggest fan of my copy of this, but it's a really nice example. It's just I'm a little more picky on centering now than I was, and this might be one of those that I look to replace someday, but still a nice copy. Love having it, and Staubach's one of those guys that's, man, is he underpriced. One of those 70s cards that you can get really cheap. Here's the card that started it all for me. This is the Bradshaw rookie card. And again, I've been talking only about rookie cards. You don't have to go that route either. Some of these guys have beautiful second and third year cards too. And heck, whatever you like, some cards have great images and people go for those. I'm primarily focused on rookies. That's just me. And I do a lot of player runs. Here's another guy that gets overlooked quite often, Sonny Jurgensen. 58 Topps rookie. This is I bought this. This might have been the second one I bought, after the I traded for the Staubach, or I'm sorry, the Bradshaw. Here's another guy, kind of overlooked, except by Chiefs fans and inside the NFL fans from back in the day. This is the 63 Fleer Len Dawson. This one took me a long time to hunt down. It's a tough card to find with decent centering. This one isn't perfect, but it's pretty decent. I'm happy with it. From the same set, we talked about him earlier. This is the Lance Allworth rookie card. Outside of Jerry Rice, him or Don Hutson are probably the number 2 wide receiver of all time. And I know I'll get feedback saying, what about Randy Moss? What about Larry Fitzgerald? What about, I'd love to have that discussion someday with some of you. Another guy who's underrated quite a bit, very underrated actually in the hobby, is Fran Tarkenton. Really the first dual threat QB. The guy could run, he could throw. He was actually the guy that, when Marino broke all the records, it was Tarkenton whose records he broke, which surprised a lot of people back then. Like, wow, I didn't realize Tarkenton was that good. He was that good. This set's tough. This is a tough card because of the black borders. A 4 is a pretty strong grade for this set. Okay, can't talk about the greatest QBs of all time without bringing up this guy. This is my John Unitas rookie. Big thing for me on this card is no snowing on the face. And the registration on this card is perfect. It's got a really tough grade of a 3, and whatever, that's fine with me. I paid a 3 price. And from the same set, we've got the Bart Starr. I talked about this card not too long ago. It looks like a 6 or a 7, but it's a 2.5 because it's got a light surface crease going through the nameplate right here. It's really hard to see, but it's there. The Starr and Unitas were 2 cards that I targeted early on in my collection just because of they're so iconic. Don Hutson, speaking of wide receivers, Don Hutson doesn't have many cards. In fact, his only other highly collected item is the 35 Wheaties panel, and that's very tough to locate. My guy George Blanda bought this one early on in my collection as well. Still haven't finished the George Blanda run. Maybe someday, but he's got a lot of cards. Okay, this card right here. This card, the pop on this for PSA is about 1,000, not very many. And oftentimes this card, the registration's not very good on it. The same with the next card that I'm going to show you. So a card like this, I'll usually be a little more lenient on the centering if the registration's perfect. Kind of like this one is. Another card from that set. Again, registration means everything. And this one has it. This is the Y.A. Tittle rookie. One of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. If I remember right, there's 13 of them pre-1980. Or maybe it's 13 total. I think it's 13 total. This is a recent pickup of mine. I'm a big Sammy Baugh guy. Again, learning about the history of the game made me a fan of this guy. He kind of bridged the gap between the ground and pound, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, to the passing game we know today. You know, without him, it would have been somebody, but Sammy Baugh was the forward pass. He kind of introduced the forward pass as a regular weapon rather than just a last second or a last gasp type thing. You know, forward passing back in the 30s and 40s, it was you only did it if you needed like a Hail Mary. Well, he changed that. And this is his 48 leaf. I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards. Not only in my collection, just in vintage football in general. I just love the pose, love the color. One thing you'll want to educate yourself on if you don't know, PSA distinguishes this card. He's also got one where the jersey is red. This one would be considered maroon. So if that's your thing, like doing a master set, or you want everything of Sammy Baugh or other players, be on the lookout for variations like that, because they do exist. Again, hopefully this was helpful for you if you're, just dipping your toes in the water. Again, feel free to reach out to me with any questions. More than happy to help you. And for those of you who know everything I just talked about and are still watching, I appreciate it. Thanks very much. I'll be back soon, probably with a player run video. I just got to double check to make sure I got them all. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Take care and have a great week. See ya.